The latest in Toyota's new tradition of having other manufacturers produce their cars, the all-new Scion IA is actually mostly Mazda. Mazda 2 to be precise. Now, while a rather anemic 1.5-liter engine doesn't exactly impress, the IA offers a lot of car for a relatively low price. It's got an attractive profile and an interior swiped directly from other Mazda offerings, and it really has a lot going in the looks department. However, this gaping grille has already drawn a lot of criticism, and I've seen more than one owner talking about replacing this entire front end with a new fascia from a Mazda 2, not available here in the States. Inside, the familiar Mazda interior provides an attractive cabin, and you'll actually recognize it with relatively few alterations from offerings like the CX-3. Now, I'm not a particularly big fan of this infotainment touchscreen. It just kind of sits there, and it interrupts what would otherwise be almost retro styling with this naked expanse of dash and these aero vents. You can just tell that it's a bit of design that we'll regret looking back 10, 15 years from now. No, but otherwise it works well. It's got an iDrive style controller and actually some interesting styling in the interface too. Of course, it comes with all of the usuals like USB, streaming radio, voice recognition, and Bluetooth. But if you want navigation, you're going to have to pay $400 for that. It's one of the few options here in keeping with Scion's one-price structure. And for $17,570, you actually get some surprising features here. Now that comes with a 6-speed automatic, but you also get keyless entry and ignition with a push-button start, 16-inch alloys, a backup camera, a tilt and telescoping steering wheel, and a real standout for this class, it's a low-speed forward collision warning system that'll actually apply braking automatically between 2 and 18 miles an hour. What this all adds up to is that the IA is actually a hell of a deal for less than 18 grand, but in this segment that usually means sacrificing things like driving dynamics. And that's actually where the IA shines. Whereas Scion's strong suit is marketing, Mazda's is handling, specifically in offering cars that handle much better than their prices would indicate. Now, while this has a McPherson front and torsion beam rear, no one's going to argue that this is a sports car. What you can count on is that, like most Mazdas, you're going to get a lot more in the handling department than what you would pay for, or what you think you're paying for. The one drawback is the engine. Now, with 106 horsepower and 103 pound-feet of torque that don't even show up until after 4,000 RPM, things can get a bit sluggish from a start. Now, there's a manual shift gate and a sport mode to help keep those revs high, but to really utilize the power band of this engine, the 6-speed manual would be your transmission of choice. Now, the 6-speed automatic, as good as it is, it just can't manufacture torque for this engine, so stop-and-go driving tends to get a little bit frustrating. But get out on the back roads where you can keep the engine spooled, and there's actually a lot of fun to be had. Where this engine really shines is in economy. With 33 mpg city and 42 highway, you can expect a combined rating of 37, and that puts this near the head of its class. Being a subcompact, space isn't abundant, but it's not scant either. The back seat is tight for adults, but it's perfectly usable for children, dogs, and other small mammals. And the trunk's 13.5 cubic feet, again, puts it near the head of its class. What this all adds up to is a really competitive offering for Scion. If you want a bit more room, check out the Honda Fit. If driving dynamics are your concern, the Ford Fiesta is where you should be. But for a really competitive offering in either category, Scion IA may be the best compromise out there. Want to know more? Click the link in the description and you can head over to CarGurus.com and read my full review and get all the details on the brand new Scion IA.